I've finished filling in all of the ribbons, and now I'm just going to do some real simple highlighting on each of them with a little bit lighter color of what was used to base in. So on the purple, I want to mix a little bit of the dioxazine purple into the white, add some extender in there, and I'm using my small Jelly Bean Dirty Dancer. And I'm just going to pick a few areas that I maybe want to pull forward a little bit more. I'm not going to go the entire length, so I'll lay down the lighter purple and then I'll just soften where I start and stop with that color, and that's going to pop that forward. I'm going to put just a little more extender into my blender brush too so that I can blend easier, and maybe a little bit on this one. You don't have to do it in the exact same areas every time. It's just to give it a little bit more interest rather than just flat color. Just kind of soften those out. It gives a little bit more dimension to the ribbon. So I'll hit all of the purple ribbons with the lighter purple mix. And just kind of hit and miss. And then soften with the blender brush just the very starting and stopping points. And then for on the red ribbons, I want to use the orange, and I'm actually going to put a little touch of the Hansa yellow in it this time to lighten it up, and then a little bit of extender. Mix a little bit more there. Okay, and there again, I'll just pick a few places that I want a little bit lighter on each of the red ribbons, and then soften my starting and stopping point so it just kind of melts down in. Soften there. Come down to the bottom here. Soften that in, and it's up to you if you would like to do any highlighting on the gold ones after the metallic gold, which is the Emperor's Gold. You can use some white and yellow mixed together. Let's give it a shot. Let's see how that looks. So I'll take a little of the Hansa yellow and some white. Mix that together, little drop of extender in there, and I'll hit a few lighter areas with that so that that'll have, I'm going to put just a touch more white into that mix. And just pop up a few of those areas. You don't need too many of the gold ones, but I do want to use some of this same area on the little tops of the ornaments here as well. Now I also base coated those in with the Emperor's Gold, but somewhere in the center here I will put a little bit, just kind of base in a little bit of that yellow-white mix and just soften on each side. And also maybe just a little line right in the middle of each of those little hooks. Somewhere in the middle. And soften. And soften the edges. And then I'll put a little bit of a white highlight in there as well. So take the round part of the brush and just kind of like a little line right in the middle of the yellow area that you just did. And I'm not even going to blend that. Let's put that in. Okay, and just a little touch on each of those little loops. Okay. It's up to you if you feel you need any more highlight going on your ornaments. I think the only one that I'd really like to see a little bit more on is my red one here. And so I'm going to actually use that yellow mix, and I'm going to put a little bit of a circle in the middle of my highlight that was already there. Now if this gets to be too much, I can always put a little wash of the orange over it. I'm just taking blend around those outside edges to soften so I get a little bit brighter highlight. You know what? I actually like that. I think I will pump up the other two now that I see that one done. So I don't want to use white all by itself. I'm going to use just a little touch of the main color in each of them. Let's get a little, kind of a real pale blue, mixing the aquamarine and the titanium white. Put some extender in there. Get a highlight and soften the outside edge. Okay, and the same with the purple one. I'm going to start with white this time. Little touch of that dioxazine purple. That purple is really strong. It doesn't take much. Little extender in there. Put that in the middle of where I already had highlight. And soften around the edge. And all that's left on here now is the final details. So I do like to take my liner brush and some black, and I'll thin it with water. And I just want to outline the underside of those little caps on the top of the ornaments. Just get a little black line under each of those. Okay, and then it's just my design that is in each of the ornaments. I think it's easier to just go ahead and kind of make the design up as you go along. All the design is put on with the Emperor's Gold, but mine's been sitting out on my palette for a while, so I need to loosen it up with some water. A lot of times when you squeeze it fresh from the bottle, you don't need to do anything to it. But the reason I like this one is it does have a better coverage than most of the metallics. Okay, so like for the red one up on top, let's get a little closer now. So for the red ornament, I just started out by adding just a line somewhere going through. And then I'm going to add just a little scallop above that. And this really is much easier to do without tracing it on first. I think it's better to do it without tracing it. Okay, and then I'll use a stylus, and I'm going to add some gold dots. And I re-dip each time so that they're the same size. And then there is kind of like little teardrops below that. And I start out by adding one, and I can do the teardrop two different ways. I can start out skinny and then just set it down to get a more of a rounded end, or I can turn this upside down, see here, and I can start from the rounded end and then pull skinny. So whichever way is easier to you. As I go to the sides, I am going to curve it a little bit, so it can be straight in the middle, and then as you go to the sides, start to give it a little curve. And then I'll add another one below in between each of those. And then for the blue one, that I've got little loops, and I think it's probably easier if I start by establishing the dots first, because then I can kind of connect them to the loops. So if I do some dots that have a little bit of space between them, and then I'm going to come down a ways and I'm going to go between those spaces so that it is every other one. I want to take my liner brush to do the loops. And you certainly could do something of your own design down here. You can just kind of make it up as you go along. Okay, and then add some more dots in there. You just kind of keep filling in all the different spaces until you have created enough interest, so it can change each time you do it. And then on the purple one, I just kind of did a freestyle kind of strokes. So I started out with some curly cues. And then added almost like a little leaf design on there. And some comma strokes. Still just using my script liner. And every time I do it, it comes out a little bit different. I just think it's easier than drawing a pattern on. Then I'm going to turn it around so that I can get the other side a little bit easier. Just keep adding strokes until it all gets filled in. And then of course you can always add some dots in there after. And let's take a look at it up the right side up. Okay, the last thing is I've added some little gold metallic dots throughout, or stars I mean, and I use the stylus to do that. So I start with a big scoop of the Emperor's Gold. I start out with a dot, and think about a gingerbread man. Go up for the head, side to side for the arms, and down for the legs. This concludes the Pondering Santa Christmas project, and I hope you've enjoyed it and that you'll give it a shot yourself. Once everything is all dry, I do like to varnish my pieces with either the Americana acrylic sealer finisher, and I like to use the gloss, but it does come in a matte as well, or I can use a brush on in the DecoArt Traditions, the satin varnish. 2 to 3 coats for either one of them should be sufficient. Please visit my website for many more designs and ideas, www.jillybean.net.